Good evening, Canterbury. I'm Mike Yardley. Welcome to Newsmakers, where we debate the week's issues through Canterbury eyes. It's a pleasure to introduce our cast of panellists. Writer and journalist Bruce Ansley, Waimakariri MP, Labour's Clayton Cosgrove, and former MP, former ECAN chair, currently Lane Neave consulting lawyer, Alec Neill. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening.
We are going to start with the rather pesky issue of buses, which have become quite a schmozzles in Christchurch in recent weeks, and there's plenty of blame being collared as to just who is responsible for this, who should take the rap, and what needs to be done from here. Can I just get your general observations? Alex, starting from your previous life at ECAN, of course, you have lead responsibility, ECAN does, for public transport. Do you think they've dropped the parcel?
No, I don't. I think they've done exactly the right thing. First of all, they let the tenders, and that's one of their jobs. Secondly, one of the major bus companies is owned by the Christchurch City Council, the Red Bus Company, but unfortunately they weren't particularly successful. I have no evidence as to why complaints were made, but there's no doubt that the bus company that was successful, their buses are not up to scratch, and Environment Canterbury have done exactly the right thing in bringing this to the attention of the appropriate authorities, and now we have the consequences of around 20 buses being put off the road and 38 not up to scratch.
There seems to be a lot of interest as to the certificate of fitness. When those unfortunate mediocre buses were brought in to fill the gaps in recent weeks, would there have been a proper checking system to ensure they were roadworthy before they went onto the roads?
Well, there should have been. I mean, whatever vehicle is, whether it's commercial or private, before you can get it on the road, it's got to be roadworthy, and especially with more so with commercial vehicles, I understand, because there's a contract. You pay to get on the bus, you pay to use the service. Therefore, you know, there's a series of commercial legal requirements to say that the bus is safe, whether it be a taxi or a van or whatever. You pay for the service, you're entitled to a safe vehicle.
So the fact that so many have been deemed unroadworthy over the course of 3 weeks would suggest perhaps the checks and balances weren't being done 3 weeks ago.
Absolutely. I mean, brakes, suspension, steering, they're the main faults. Now, that's a big problem. I'm a regular bus user. This happened when ECAN first instituted the tendering system, if you remember. We rode around on unheated, rattly, cold buses, which nobody had much faith in. And of course, we gave up our favourite red buses for that. At the moment, if it's not red, I'm not going to ride it.
Not even a leopard?
Afraid not.
Oh, I think that's a little unfair in that there are three companies involved. One of those companies, as I understand it, by the time we go to air, a sale agreement will have been reached. I think you should look as to who the purchaser of that is, and that the quality of bus has improved dramatically. It's fair to say that when this organisation won a tender substantially greater than they probably expected, they've rushed and obtained buses that aren't up to scratch. They need to shape up or ship out, and they are in fact shipping out.
Surely ECAN should have investigated that.
It's not ECAN. It's absolutely not ECAN's role to do the certificate of fitness. ECAN's role is to award the contracts, and the contracts were awarded on the understanding that these buses were fit for purpose. They were not fit for purpose.
Although Brian Jenkins, in that letter to the editor last week, pointed out that ECAN takes safety issues seriously on all buses, temporary or not, with 3 full-time quality assurance officers on the roads daily. What the hell were these officers doing in the last few weeks?
Well, why do you think we have the position now where the police were involved in checking these buses?
Because the public spoke out about what hideous
and
experiences they were having.
The officers themselves do not have the ability to actually put the buses off the road. Only the police, under their powers, do, and that's exactly what they've done.
But I think there's 2 issues here. The first issue is when the tender was let, were the appropriate guarantees given? Presumably within the documents it says that you have to provide a safe service, a safe bus, etc., etc. Now, if those commitments were given, they have to be honoured. Post that, if now a company is putting buses on the road that aren't roadworthy, that's an enforcement issue, and maybe they should be prosecuted, because you just can't do this. So they've given a commitment in the tender, they haven't honoured presumably those tender commitments, then there's an enforcement issue.
The boss of Leopard rang into my radio show on Friday and pointed out all of the innovative add-ons to the bus service that Leopard have been responsible for over the years. The super low floor buses, Leopard were the first, not Red Bus. The bike racks on buses, Leopard innovated that. Would there be a major sea change in terms of complacency when it comes to the quality of our passenger transport service if there wasn't competition in the equation? Would that be the end result if it was just all red buses monopoly?
Absolutely, and that's why there is competition. Cherry picking happens in other cities, particularly Auckland and Wellington, where the equivalent of the red bus companies cherry pick the best routes and leave the non-profitable routes to others. That's not the case in Christchurch. The fact is Christchurch has one of the best bus systems in New Zealand, if not Australasia.
And I think there's another point, because when you talk about competition, sure, you can have all the competition you like in terms of innovative standards of service, as you've talked about, extras, bike racks, etc. But hang on, whether you have competition or not, whether there's one provider or 10, there is a legal and regulatory requirement to have a safe vehicle if you're going to charge people to go on it, regardless. If you're a monopoly, you still have to have your feet put to the fire and provide a safe bus.
And that's exactly what the police, under the transport aspects of their policing, are required to do. They do it with trucks, and they've done it with buses, and I congratulate them for taking that.
Would you prefer if we just had red bus right across the city, no other operators?
I personally would.
Yeah.
I personally would, because I've got some faith in those red buses, and I think the events of the last few weeks have just reinforced that attitude. I mean, we haven't actually seen a situation, as you describe. We haven't been able to evaluate that where there's no competition at all, but we have been able to evaluate the current system, and it's not working very well.
You see, I was intrigued that Carol Evans, a former colleague of yours from the Regional Council, she has come out saying this competitive tender model needs to be reviewed. It's not delivering.
It's this round of tenders which hasn't delivered, where one particular company, the Christchurch Bus Company, has picked up a large proportion of the red bus tenders. That probably is unfortunate. It's fair to say that after 6 months of elected councillors not being present, these things are allowed to slip through.
By the way, just coming back to what you were referring to before, Christchurch Bus Services, are you saying they are going to be out of the equation as we know them this weekend?
As I understand it, and I may be wrong, but my information suggests that there is discussions taking place which were likely to be concluded today, which may see a new owner for that company, and therefore some of the issues will perhaps be taken over.
We'll still have the Zong Tong buses though, won't we?
Yes, but I'm sure that the new owner is not new to the bus industry.
I see. Northerner? North Island?
I
Go bus?
I say no more than that. Watch my lips.
We've got plenty to come with our guests, so do stay with us.